Welcome to Community News Podcast, Pillars of the Community, where we present the individuals, institutions, and organizations that contribute to improving the quality of life of our community. I'm your host, Harry Gottlieb. Today is all about the good work being accomplished by Miami Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Our guests today are none other than Michael Berger, who's teacher of visually impaired, and Mara Gonzalez, the director of Miami Lighthouse Academy. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Please tell us a little bit about who you are, how did you end up down here, and what you are accomplishing for our community.
So I am an educator at heart. I have been in the education sector for over 28 years. Not that says my age, but
No.
not at all. I've been doing this for 28 years. I was a classroom teacher for 12 years, and then I moved on to do administration in the education field.
You taught here in Miami?
I did.
What school?
The Growing Place was where I have all of my teaching years. It's a private school in the Gables.
Okay.
And then I moved on to being an administrator at schools, and I'm actually the founding principals of 2 schools here in Miami.
Which ones, if you can say?
No, we'll leave it at that. Just
Okay.
the 2 founding principals of 2 schools. So education is my passion. It's all I know. Don't put me to do anything else because that's all I've ever done. I was born in New Jersey, but came when I was very young. My father left the cold and the snow. So I've been here since I was 3, and that's all I've ever done. So recently working with students that are blind and visually impaired. I have worked with students that have other exceptionalities, but this is the first time that I work with kids that are blind. And I'll tell you, it's changed my life.
How did you decide to go for this position? Did you have a mentor? Did you have somebody that was visually impaired that you decided that this was something that you needed to do to fulfill your life?
So I'm probably going to get teary-eyed answering your question when I answer this. So
That's great television. Go ahead. Let it flow. Let it flow.
my dad, rest in peace, going on 5 years now, who was or still is, the person that's made me who I am today. He had a German Shepherd whom he absolutely loved. He made it a therapy dog. And every week he made it a point to go to what he called El Farolito, which is the lighthouse, to make sure that the therapy dog did therapy to the lighthouse clients. I had no clue what the lighthouse was. I had no idea. I just knew that he was very proud every week to go with his therapy dog to provide therapy for these individuals. Hence, 10 years later, I get a phone call from the HR director at Miami Lighthouse saying that they're looking for a director.
Unbelievable.
I didn't even know, like I said, they had a school. I called my mother dying in tears, and she said, "That is your father talking to you. You need to take this job." And here I am 3 years later.
And the office is located in Little Havana?
We are located right at the heart of Little Havana, what they call kind of the East Brickell, so right on 6th Avenue and 8th Street. No, wait, 601 Southwest 8th Avenue. So it's 8th Avenue and 6th Street, right in the heart of Little Havana.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful state-of-the-art building that we've built
I
there.
want to visit.
You can come anytime.
I love Little Havana. I live in Coconut Grove, and I spend more time in Little Havana. It's actually more authentic than Coconut Grove is.
It absolutely is. We'll go for a cup of coffee,
Yes.
cafecito cubano, and then we can go for
I
a
go
tour.
to Party Cake for breakfast 2 or 3 times a week. It's on Calle Ocho and 13th Court. And then for lunch, if I'm in that neighborhood, I go to El Rey de la Frita.
El Rey de la Frita, absolutely.
It's a classic.
It's funny because we do a lot of hosting. We have a lot of guests, and every guest, most institutions will have coffee and donuts.
Yes.
No, we have café con leche and pastelitos for every guest
In
that comes
your office?
In our office.
Do you bring it in a silver tray?
It's in a tray. I don't know about silver, but it's in a tray. But it's café con leche and pastelitos what we offer.
So let's talk to Michael. Tell us about yourself. Where did you study, and how did you get into the field that you're in, and how did you end up here in South Florida?
Yeah, so my name is Michael Berger, and I'm from Utah originally, Salt Lake City area, and I grew up there. I moved there when I was a young kid, and I ended up in college working with adults with disabilities. I worked in group homes, and then I also worked with kids in a summer camp with additional disabilities. And I fell in love with it, and my undergrad was sociology, and then I went and got a grad school degree in Chicago in social work. And while I was in Chicago, I ended up working or interning at a place called Friedman Place for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And it's on the northwest side of Chicago. It's working with adults that are blind and visually impaired to give them a lot of additional supports. It's independent living and assisted living for adults with visual impairments. And what I saw is a lot of adults that were very dependent on people. And I saw a big purpose and need and support for these individuals, and it was really a great experience for me in my grad school. And so when I graduated, I moved back to Utah, where I'm from, and within 6 months, I got a job at the Utah Schools for the Blind, and the principal there came to me and said, hey, you'd be a really good teacher of the visually impaired, and there's a grant that'll pay for you to get your master's in teaching of the visually impaired. So I was like, okay, sure. So I went back to University of Utah, which is where I had my undergrad, and I did a 2-year degree in teaching of the visually impaired. And then within 6 months, once I was in the program, I could actually be a teacher of the visually impaired and teach a classroom there. So I taught kids at Utah Schools for the Blind, ages pretty much birth to 5. And I was there from 2017 to 2021. And in 2021, my partner and I, we just wanted a new life change, and we both had loved South Florida. So we ended up looking at jobs down here, and Miami Lighthouse had an opening, and I applied, and I got the job really fast. So I came down and moved here in 2021, and I've been at the Miami Lighthouse for 5 years. And I'm a teacher of the visually impaired at the Miami Lighthouse. I work with kids age 1 up to 3rd grade, so up to 9 years old. And I love what I do, and there's a lot I can go into on what I do and how I help my students and their families and why it's so important.
I was going to say, it's funny that he said I got the job right away, and it just kind of give context to that. Miami-Dade County Public Schools, who has hundreds of thousands of students, has 6 teachers of the visually impaired for all of those students. We at Miami Lighthouse have 4 for our students, and we have right now, we're like at 60. So just to kind of give you context of how independent or how individualized our services to our kids that are visually impaired.
Do you folks have a relationship with the Children's Trust?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So a couple of our programs are funded through the Children's Trust, right? We actually have a blind soccer program that we started that was, we had a 1-year grant as an innovative grant to have this blind soccer program that we're still launching. We're still doing it. We actually just got a grant from FIFA
Do the
to
balls
continue
have
this.
sound?
They do. They have a rattle. The balls have a rattle, so it's all auditory. It is fantastic. Mike and I are actually certified coaches through the United States Association of Blind Athletes for
There's
blind
also sound
soccer.
balls on this side, and it's a smaller field. And we can go into, there's a lot that goes into blind soccer.
Right.
I would love to see this.
You need to come out and play.
Yeah.
I would guess that there's a lot of I would guess that there's a lot of physical contact.
Yeah,
So we just started, right? So the USABA, which is, again, the United States Association of Blind Athletes, they have a curriculum for 5-year-olds through 12th grade. They didn't have a curriculum for blind soccer for the early learners, which is ages 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we created a curriculum for that. So we have the first comprehensive blind soccer curriculum for the youngers of 1, 2, 3, and 4-year-olds.
So how long has this been going on in South Florida? When were you established? What year were you established, more or less?
Miami Lighthouse?
Yes.
So Miami Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired is actually celebrating almost 100 years of service.
Wow.
We service about 30,000 program participants annually. And that's service of what we call birth through end of life. Because we have a blind babies program that services children that are blind and visually impaired as early as birth. And we have up until our senior groups program that it's up to the end of life.
How many on staff do you have altogether?
How many staff?
How many staff? How many people do you have working on your team?
So the entire Miami Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired has almost 100 employees. However, we do also have 1099 contracted employees during the summer and all that, and it's over 200.
And volunteers? You have a lot of volunteers?
We have a lot of volunteers. We do. We have a lot of volunteers. Miami Lighthouse Academy, it's one of the 2 subsidiaries that Miami Lighthouse for the Blind has. One of them is the statewide Florida hiking program. So we provide comprehensive eye exams for students throughout the entire state of Florida. If the optometrist decides or, says that the child or that student needs glasses, they get to pick their frames right there on the spot. The glasses are made and they're delivered to the child's school all for free. And the second one is Miami Lighthouse Academy that we'll talk a little bit more about.
So years ago, I met a gentleman at dinner. I think it was a Thanksgiving or an Easter dinner at a party. And he was from Monaco. Mm-hmm. And he had this really wonderful baritone voice. And I said, so were you on, before you retired, were you on television or were you in the radio? He said, no. He said he was in the radio business. He was a broadcaster. And that now, as a retiree, he was doing voluntary work for the Lighthouse. He was reading newspapers and books.
Wow.
And recording them so that they could be played online and visually impaired people could experience what's going on in the news or experience a novel or a fiction through listening. And I thought that was wonderful. And I was wondering, is there a program that you folks have to do that here?
So I don't know specific about a program. We do
say, we have vocational rehabilitation. So what we work with our clients on the adult side, and we work with the younger kids, but on
Right.
the adult side, what they do is we have adults that through the Division of Blind Services in the state of Florida, they have a counselor, and then our therapist on the adult side, she works with them to get our clients set up to then get classes so they learn all these different materials and devices, and they're actually set up to get books on tape through the Division of Blind Services in the state of Florida.
Okay.
And then what happens is our adult clients come in and they get classes to learn how to use technology, use their phone, how to clean and cook, how to do the laundry again, how to relearn all these skills that maybe they lost when they lost their vision.
use the computer.
So just to go into based off what you were asking, yes, there are a lot of services that are provided for adults that can do that, to listen to different books on tape. And there's now technology is so important for all of our persons with visual impairments.
Yeah.
Michael,
So-
talk to us about Braille.
Okay.
Do you teach Braille? Did you learn Braille? How
Yes.
difficult is it to learn?
Yeah.
Share with us.
So Braille can be tricky. There's a lot that goes into it. So I learned Braille through my university program, and there's two different parts to it. There's one, obviously, reading it. There's another way of teaching it. So it's really important that when you're learning Braille, that the students I work with and the clients, they have the correct technique. Because if they're just trying to scan across like this and scrubbing is when you move your fingers like this to try to find the dots. That's not the correct technique. They actually have to have a light touch, good technique sitting up, moving across, index fingers, and then find the next line and go down.
So you work both hands at the same time?
Both hands, yep, on the lines. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. But going into the Braille, so the way that you learn the alphabet, it's a code system. So there's 6 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And each letter has a combination of dots, and obviously A through Z. And so when we're teaching our students with visual impairments Braille, we actually don't teach it in the traditional A through Z you would with like A, B, C, D. There's actually another way, like we follow our own curriculum to teach Braille. There's a couple of different ones we use. There's a Mangold curriculum. There's the Building on Patterns curriculum. So we actually have our own curriculums we use to teach Braille. And we have a lot of concept development because a lot of our students can't actually see what they're looking at, and they rely a lot on auditory information. So when I'm teaching the Braille, there's that part of learning the alphabet. And so I usually start with letters, and then I work on to simple sight words. But then there's something called uncontracted versus contracted Braille. So like the way that we would read print, and there's obviously, apostrophes, and there's a lot that goes into the print. We have something called contractions in Braille, and there's over 100 of them. So to make the Braille a little shorter, we actually combine letters, and we make our own Braille code for certain words to make them shorter. So once a person has learned grade 1 and they can read and discriminate the letters and read words full in Braille, then we start teaching them. And sometimes we do it in collaboration with each other. We'll do uncontracted and contracted at the same time. So, for example, like there's something called alphabetic word signs. So if you're doing the alphabet and the letters by itself on a page, so the letter B means the word but, C by itself means can, D means do. So I actually will make songs for my students to learn these simple contractions with the alphabet so they can learn. If I'm just reading letter C by itself, that means the word can. So instead of having to write out C-A-N or read the whole thing, I could just read the letter C. So there is a lot behind it. There's also something obviously called math Braille. So we have to figure out like what the child is, how do we teach them that part? And then we use Advocacy with counting. And there's a lot of other assistive devices we use.
Would you
So-
say that there's any similarities between the Morse code or being a court reporter in shorthand?
It's definitely a code system, yeah. In some ways, it's similar. So, and I don't know a lot about Morse code, but I can say that, yeah, it's a code. And so they actually, over time, so Louis Braille, obviously, we all know that he was the one that started Braille, but there was a lot of other people involved. And they played with different code systems, like 8 dots, 10 dots. Eventually, they got to the 6 dot because it's easier as you're reading to discriminate that smaller than something bigger. And that's why they came up with the 6 dot system.
And we start Braille as early as 1-year-olds, right? So if we know that it's going to be a Braille a student, because that's literacy for them, right? That's, and early intervention is key to us. So we start the Braille system with something called the Smart Brailler, and it's the introduction of, and we start that as early as 1-year-olds.
And we have a whole, so it's called pre-Braille. And so I teach a lot of it is sensorial textures. So our kids aren't, a lot of times when you can't see and you're a young child, you're very afraid of your environment and of different textures. So we really need to get our kids exposed to touching in a safe way. So my job is to make sure kids start learning how to not only touch things but hold things and put things in bins and start like learning discrimination, because they have to discriminate the Braille dots. They need to build finger strength to write on the Braille writer. So we start a lot of different things we do with literally toddlers to get them ready. And I have something called a Braille readiness grid, and I track off what the kid is doing, and it kind of builds up to learn to get to the Braille part. It's not just starting to read, it's like literally this segue into reading Braille.
Do you folks have a relationship with Dade County or some of the municipalities?
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know if you want to go more into that.
So we have, we currently, the Miami Lighthouse Academy contract with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. So our students enroll in their home school, they register with Miami Lighthouse. So if a student has visual impairment as their primary disability, then we are a specialized school, so they register with us. Once they finish and complete the academy right now, which is 3rd grade, then they move on to their school community. But we partner with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, absolutely.
So as I mentioned a little earlier, I went to an event at the University of Miami, Bill Cosford Theater yesterday. And there were a lot of interesting people there, and one of them was none other than Miami-Dade County Commissioner Gilbert. And we were chatting about different things, mostly about transportation and about housing shortage and how we're going to deal with all the people that keep coming down to South Florida that aren't billionaires. And he introduced me to his associate, to his assistant, and he said, I want Harry to get in touch with you and talk to you about transportation and Metro Rail and the broken elevators that are out of service and things like that. And he gave me his card. He reached into his pocket and he pulled out a card and he gave me the card. And I noticed the card was really rough looking, was really rough feeling. And I thought, in my mind, I thought, embossed? Miami-Dade County is paying for embossing cards? And I thought that was odd. So I looked at the card and it had Braille on it.
Wow.
And I was very, very pleased to see that. And I was wondering if you had known about this and if there are any other commissioners that support this and they have Braille on their cards. Or if not, I think you need to reach out to him and congratulate him.
For doing that. So at Miami Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired is a nonprofit organization. So everything that we do is through grants and donations. So we work with, a lot of individuals in the community, commissioners or whatnot, that support us 100%. So, but I applaud Commissioner Gilbert for having that. As a matter of fact, it's funny that you say that. I was at the store the other day. I don't remember what store, and there was a lip gloss or something, and it had Braille on it. So this specific makeup brand is doing all of their branding in Braille. Barbie just came out with a Barbie doll of a Barbie who has a cane, so she's blind. So, and my husband collects Hot Wheels cars. So Hot Wheels also has collections of cars that have Braille on it. So I'm, again, to me, this is new. I've never worked with, visually impaired individuals, but hearing this because of the community that I'm working with now, seeing that accessibility is not 100%, the community is not 100% accessible to blind individuals. Hearing you say that just makes my heart smile.
So when we're finished recording, I'm going to look up his contact information. I'm going to give it to you. I suggest that you write to him or you ask for an appointment and that you tell him that you're very appreciative of what he's doing and that you would like to communicate through him to the rest of the commissioners and the mayor so that you can so that you can provide them with information so that you can put Braille on all of their business cards.
Absolutely. I don't know if he currently works with us, right? Because like Mike says, we're mostly in the academy. But I'll definitely, let the rest of the leadership team know and reach out to him. And absolutely, like I said, we have a lot of support from a lot of commissioners throughout the county. So
tell me about the future. What do you think? How do you see the future? Where is this going to go?
So somebody said, and I think it was the president of the Children's Trust, who said, or the Early Learning Coalition, I don't know, because we partner, we work with them as well. He said that Miami Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired is Miami's best kept secret. That made me chuckle because although it's great for him to acknowledge that we do great service, we don't want to be Miami's best kept secret. We want to make sure that we service everybody who needs us, right? Especially that we service, again, from birth to end of life. So a lot of community outreach, a lot of community awareness. Let everybody know that, if you know of somebody that has a visual impairment or is blind, they need to reach out to us because we have a program for them. Not only that, Miami Lighthouse Academy is also an inclusion program for the little ones. So ages 1, 2, 3, and 4-year-olds, students that are sighted can also go to school with us, right? It's an inclusion program. Well, why would sighted students go to Miami Lighthouse Academy? Well, I'll tell you why. Inclusion program for us, the foundation is social emotional learning, empathy, learning, these sighted peers are not going to think of a student that is blind or visually impaired as somebody who is different than them. They learn the same or the same thing, the general curriculum, just in a different way. Another story that we love to share is we are part of the VPK program, which is a voluntary pre-kindergarten program, which is funded through the Early Learning Coalition. Well, our 4-year-olds, the foundation to kindergarten, they have to take state testing. Our students last year in the VPK program, 99% of them ended up in the 96th percentile of the entire Miami-Dade County. That's an inclusion program. It works.
That's quite an accomplishment.
It absolutely is. It works. A lot. Again, you have a lot of questions. Why would I send my child, or why would my child go to a school that only services, blind and visually impaired? Well, a lot of reasons.
So, Michael, let me ask you, what do you see for the future?
I see providing more access to all individuals that need it, because I think that's the biggest thing we see is we find people that we didn't know about that needed access to a lot of these barriers that are impacting their lives, and they didn't know about us. So it makes me sad that there are people out there that need more supports, because we all need help sometimes, especially when we're going through hard times, whether it's an adult or a child or a family. And we are there to try to help and help them improve their outcomes. So,
well, hopefully the viewers of this show will help spread the word.
I hope so.
Hopefully, that's the point. Absolutely.
So we need to wrap this up because we're running out of time. And I just want to say to everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. And please get involved in your community, volunteer for our events, go to commission meetings, meet your commissioners, meet your mayor, let them know how you feel about various things, make them aware of your concern about zoning, make them aware of your concern about traffic and about crime and about the Metro Rail elevators being out of service, and do your best to get involved in the community, volunteer for organizations that are going to benefit the community. And last but not least, as I often paraphrase, don't ask for your community what they can do for you, but what you can do for them. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to launch a podcast, but you got no clue how or where? CNews TV makes it easy. Choose from one of our 4 podcast studios, Studio A, B, C, or D. We provide the professional space, the equipment, the crew, the know-how, and even a host if you need one. Book a studio now at sales@cnews.net.